all major politicians get probed. The last mayor, Mayor De Blasio, did too. The difference between a probe and a case is that the U.S. attorney either declines to move forward or authorizes charges. I don't repeat that in any way to disparage Mayor De Blasio. I thought he reflected on and reacted honorably to the case against Mayor Adams, as did Governor Hochul, as did Hakeem Jeffries, as did Reverend Sharpton, as did others in standing with the presumption of innocence.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. That was Mayor Adams' attorney Alex Spiro today. As we reported before the break, Spiro defended the mayor, maintaining his innocence and alleging that then U.S. Attorney Damian Williams targeted Adams for political reasons. Meanwhile, the move to drop the mayor's case has sparked concerns that Adams may now be beholden to President Trump. Here now to talk through all of this is former Mayor Bill de Blasio, who was a regular here at Inside City Hall with your Mondays with the Mayor segment, which I am sure you
Those were the good days.
Well, your name was obviously invoked today, but let me just start generally with your reaction to the news on Monday that the DOJ was moving to drop the case against Mayor Adams.
Look, let's note up front that what Donald Trump is doing to our democratic institutions, to our Constitution, is extremely dangerous. And in general, the way he's using the Department of Justice for his own political agenda. This is something we thought we had gotten away from, I should say, after Watergate and seeing how Richard Nixon tried to use Department of Justice for his political ends. There's something extremely bad happening in Washington. But at the same time, we got to look at each case on its merits and its reality. From the very beginning, I thought the charges against Mayor Adams were unfair and flimsy. I didn't like at all the way that was handled. I think it was unfair to him. I think it was unfair to the city. And I think it's right for these charges to be dropped. I don't like the way the DOJ did it. I think they should have said on the merits, this is just not worth pursuing. But I think it is right to get past this. We're 4.5 months from a mayoral primary. DOJ is supposed to have a cardinal rule that they do not interfere in the democratic electoral process. And I think they had already broken that rule up to now. So at least by stopping now, they return the decision about the future back to the people of New York City.
Well, so I guess in that sense, you agree with part of the memo from the Department of Justice, which took issue with the timing. But the other part of the memo basically said that this investigation, this case, was going to interfere with Mayor Adams' ability to help with immigration enforcement. And that obviously, has led to a perception that the mayor is now beholden to the president. What's your take on that?
I thought that was a very strange but still obvious act by the DOJ. What is immigration enforcement any different from national security, anti-terrorism, public safety, any of the things that a mayor is involved with working with the federal government? So, look, that was yet a further effort to send a political message. But in truth, Mayor Adams now holds the cards. If I were in his shoes this very moment, I'd say, okay, we finally got this really unfair set of allegations out of the way. Now, full focus on the needs of the people of New York City. Challenge Donald Trump and his administration when they're wrong. If they do something good for New York City, thank them, appreciate that. I always invoke Ed Koch. Ed Koch had this rule. He applied it often with governors, who he had to butt heads with sometimes, but obviously presidents as well. If anyone who is in one of those positions of authority does right by New York City, you should say thank you. You should stand next to them and say thank you, and you did something right for our people. That praise is deserved. If they affront New York City, if they do something that hurts our people, you've got to challenge them. The ball is now in Mayor Adams' court to do that. I believe he can do that, and that will be appreciated by the people of the city.
Right, but he has said, he said explicitly that he will not challenge the Trump administration publicly. If he has any disagreement, he'll take it up privately. But it sounds like if there is an affront to New York City, he's not going to say anything about it.
Well, I would see that a little differently. I think office holders all over the country, Democrat and Republican, realize that Donald Trump is a particularly, let's call it personalist leader, that he, unlike the vast majority of people who have held senior office, he does so much according to his ego perception of how you deal with him. Now, for example, in our worst hour as a city, I would say during COVID, I had to talk to him regularly. I wasn't going to insult him to his face. I was trying to find common ground with him. I was trying to communicate with him if he did something good, I'd thank him because I knew that mattered to him. If you could resolve something privately, that's always ideal. But if you can't, then you have to stand up. So look, if Mayor Adams is actually in a position, because he's built a relationship with Donald Trump, to get things done and stop bad things from happening, I think most New Yorkers would say, we don't care how you get it done, just take care of us. But if at any point Donald Trump, regardless of personal appeals or dialogue, decides to do something harmful, or his agencies do, you got to confront them.
Right. I mean, getting back to the case against the mayor, and obviously, his attorney alluded to it at the news conference today. You were investigated for much the same type of pay-to-play situation. I mean, do you see a lot of parallels between the investigation that was undertaken against you and the case against Mayor Adams?
They're different cases, obviously. I was not indicted. It was an investigation. But I was shocked during it, and I have a certain understanding and empathy for what the mayor's gone through. I mean, look, I spent my entire life in public service, continue to in every way I can. He did too. He was a police officer for all those years. I think when you've attempted to give yourself over to the needs of the people, and then suddenly there is what I would describe, at least in my case, as a very arbitrary effort to disparage that and the people around us. That was about a year that went on. And it was very difficult for the members of my team and my administration. And yet, in the end, there was no charges brought against anyone. And so what I found inappropriate, honestly, is the notion that if prosecutors just want to throw something out there into the world knowing it has a massive impact, they can do that without checks and balances. I think there's a question there. Look, again, I'm a child of the Watergate generation. I 100% believe no one's above the law. We need scrupulous review of our elected officials and what they're doing. And in New York State, we've got so many layers, state government, city government, controllers, city council, DOI, district attorney, attorney general. I mean, there's so many layers of oversight, as there should be. But when prosecutorial decisions are made that, in my view, can be very arbitrary and not recognize the impact on the people of New York City, and then in my case, to see them pulled back out of nowhere, almost without comment, so nothing to see here, it was damaging. It was unfair to the people of New York City. It was certainly unfair to me and my team, I believe. But look, this is a different case, except what I see some commonality in is when I looked at the specifics, I read the indictment, I couldn't find anything that amounted to the criminal charges that we're trumpeting publicly. So this is another reason I say, if they couldn't do better than that, or they couldn't move faster than that, then you can't take the risk of polluting the democratic process in which the people of this city get to choose their leaders. And so this is why it's good that they're backing down.
Obviously, there has been a lot of blowback towards Mayor Adams after what happened earlier this week. I mean, as a political matter, do you think that the mayor still has any chance at winning re-election? Of
course. Look, let's not forget the history, first of all. It is a very rare reality for an incumbent mayor to lose re-election. He has an opportunity to say to the people of the city, look, we've made a pretty strong recovery from COVID. That was, in many ways, the number one thing he had to do. Obviously, crime is down in many ways. There's still more to do. City of Yes, in many ways, a very good initiative that I think can and will help us get more affordability. He's got some real achievements. I think his problem previously was some of the people around him who I think were not suited to their jobs in a variety of ways. Those folks are gone. The team he has now in place, Maria Torres Springer, exceptional first deputy mayor, Jessica Tisch, exceptional police commissioner. He's got some great people now. So it's a different reality. But I'll tell you anyone that if you ever say, oh, you're 4.5 months out, look at the polls, ball game over. Well, let me be Exhibit A and tell you 4.5 months before the New York mayoral primary in 2013, I was toasted, Bobby. Like no one in the world believed I could win.
Well, there have been some polls of this primary race in the last few weeks, and guess what? They show someone who is not yet in the race, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, having a commanding lead over the rest of the field. Obviously, he appears to be seriously considering getting into the race. What do you make of that?
I'll keep it very simple. I mean, there's also been some reporting even this week about how when you introduce all the facts, those poll numbers change very, very quickly. So again, I think anyone who's looking now at theoretical scenarios and thinks that polling is the same as voting, you have an incumbent mayor. He's got some achievements he can talk about. He's obviously known to be a very good campaigner, and now he doesn't have the distraction of this case. That doesn't mean he's going to win. I'm not here saying, no, it's going to be the greatest comeback of all time. I think he has a chance to win, certainly has a chance to make his case to the people of New York City. There's some other very strong candidates in the race. So I think it's just fair to say, let's clear the slate. And all of us in politics love to prognosticate and predict. Let's get real here. People used to always talk about, well, what happens if he goes to trial? What happens if there are superseding charges? That's all gone now. It's open field. If he can make his case effectively, he has a chance to get reelected.
Mayor De Blasio, we are going to leave it there. Thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight.
Pleasure, Bobby.
All right, it is time now for a break. Coming up, I will talk more about the state of the race for mayor, including some new endorsements. We will bring you the latest from the campaign trail. And later, I'll be joined by candidate Michael Blake to talk about his plan for city schools. Stay with us.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. Let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, and click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV to learn more about the candidates, where they stand on the issues, and more. We'll see you then.